Good
Morning.
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 Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I see all happy faces.
Yes.
So that is promising. I think everybody's trying to turn into be a little bit more positive if we look around the world.
No, jak
Hope,
masz tutaj, jak nie ma właśnie.
hopefully that is the case. All right. We'll wait a few more minutes when everybody tries to join.
To są moje, nie? Ale nie mówię.
What I would like to ask you is that we can turn the videos off because this might be on the band causing a little bit. I will do the same thing in a minute, but then at least you can see me who's presenting.
Mikrofon? Nie. Chyba nie.
Good. All right. Quite a lot of people. We already have 42 people in the meeting. So that is very promising. Very good. Very good. So today we have this. Well, let me first introduce myself. That's maybe a little bit easier. My name is Mark Verbeen. I'm Dutch, so I live in the Netherlands, and I've been working for Onyx for 6.5 years now.
By me, yes.
My background is printing. I've been working for Epson and some other companies in the past years. So I know a little bit about hardware too. That helps always in this job. What we're doing today, we have a schedule that we do 2 hours before lunch, 2 hours after lunch. So we'll go from here to around 12 o'clock, and then you guys can have lunch, I can have lunch, and then we continue at 1 o'clock. All right. So on behalf of my colleague Mark Heuner, he's asked me if I could please record this session. So if everybody is okay with that, we record it, and then we can later on send also the link. So if you want to share with your colleagues or something, that is possible. All right. So for now, everybody has seen me, so I will turn my camera off, and we'll start. All right. And as I said before, maybe it's possible to turn cameras off, because that's might causing some bandwidth with problems everywhere. So that's always good.
Marcin, wyłącz tą
Right,
kamerę,
let's-
gamoniu jeden. Czego nie rozumiesz? No, jeszcze mam głos.
If all works well, you should be able to see my screen. First, I want to go over a small presentation, a little bit about our products and what we have, and then go into the actual product. So, if you look at Onyx is an American company. We have been in the market for more than 30 years.
Proszę mnie obejrzeć.
So we are one of the oldest companies that make grips for printers. We make our own everything ourselves. So our color engine, things like that. Of course, printer drives and things like that. If you look at our products, we have divided them into two groups. One is RIP solutions, and the other one is print workflow. I'll explain you in a little bit more. But RIP solution is really aimed at the one computer solution. Thrive is aiming at a network solution. Now, if you are familiar with Onyx products in the past, up till version 12, it was all with the JAWS rip, and the JAWS rip is what we call, let's say, a clone rip. It is not per se a bad rip, but it is a way how we implement it in our product. Thrive, however, always has had the Adobe PDF engine. Now, when we looked at the development, we always had to develop on two platforms. So we had to develop JAWS rips, or a rip containing the JAWS rip, and one for the Adobe PDF, and that was causing sometimes a bit of a problem, because we might create a feature that works in JAWS and did not work in Adobe, or vice versa. So from version 18, we left the JAWS rip, and everything became the Adobe PDF engine. So you see that there's also been modifications to the Adobe engine. Adobe also does new releases of the PDF print engine. As you can see, on version 18 we were at 4.6 and we're now at 5.4. And these dot releases, how we call them, so the 0.4, 0.5, are in most cases small releases. If you look at our product on the rip side, you see this little picture here that says Onyx Production House. That is a product that we used to have. We no longer sell that as a new product, but people that have a production house can still upgrade. This was years ago meant for people that were owning a flatbed printer, a big flatbed. They had to go to a production house to be able to support it. Nowadays, this is being replaced by Thrive, and as I mentioned, people that actually have a production house and don't want to go to Thrive, they can still upgrade their production house. The main products nowadays are Rip Center and Poster Shop, and it is all about how many rips, how many printers can I drive, and what features do I have inside. Everything is always upgradable. You can go from a Rip Center to a Poster Shop. You can go from Poster Shop to Thrive. Just a short thing. Okay, what does it have? We have a Rip Center, which is basically our entry-level product. It just has a job editor and a rip queue and a cut server. So you can always, with the Rip Center, you can always drive a cutter, a roll cutter. Yeah, so you cannot drive a flatbed cutter. That is an option that you should buy then. One step up is the Poster Shop 1 Limited. And what you can see is basically the Poster Shop 1 and the Poster Shop only has one difference, is that the regular Poster Shop has profile generation tools. So the 1 Limited, you cannot create your own profiles. With the actual Poster Shop, you are able to create profiles within Onyx, of course, with the use of, for example, an i1 or a Barbieri or whatever spectrophotometer you have. Also in Poster Shop, you have way more tools. So you have something like swatch books where you can do Pantone colors. We have a spot layer tool if your printer has white ink or metallic ink or things like that. We have a layout tool where I can manually position files. So it has a bit more than Rip Center. If you look at price, just to give you an idea, Rip Center is €12.95 and a Poster Shop 1 Limited is €15.95. So there's only a €300 difference where the features are much more. Thrive is a different product that it works with the licensing. Yeah, so it has a network license. If you look at if you look at the product by itself, Thrive is not different than the Rip Center or the Poster Shop. If a customer does not have to be afraid when he goes into has a rip center or has a post shop wants to go to Thrive and says, well, hey, I have to learn new software. No, the software for itself looks exactly the same. The interface looks the same. Okay, the rip center in the postie shop has orange buttons, Thrive has blue buttons. And of course, depending on the features, you have more buttons available to set certain, that network-based license. What does that mean? That means the license travels over the network, what they call a floating license. So that means I can have the Onyx key somewhere in my building in a server. It does not matter. Thrive can have the possibility to search on the network to see if this license is available. Compared to the RIP products, if you want to run Onyx software on your computer, you would have to install the key in there. Yeah, so with Thrive you can have that on a separate computer. The only thing that is important there is that it has to be on the same subnet mask. So if you have a rather large company with different subnet masks, the license will not be seen by this. So that is important. Now the license normally come every Thrive that we ship is a net 10 key. So you can have 10 users. If you need more, we can always swap that net 10 key for a 50 or even a 250. If you're familiar with if you heard about Thrive before, you might have heard something about numbers that Thrive 211 or a 421 or a 642, things like that. That was basically a definition of how many RIPs and printers and job editors were supported in this Thrive. We made that a little bit more simple, just to say this is just right now. This is what you order from us. If your customer buys a Thrive, he gets a Thrive with 4 RIPs, so 4 Adobe engines. The normalizer, what does that mean? Every file that goes into the RIP, for example a JPEG, will be converted first to an Adobe PDF through the normalizer. For the customer, he does not see anything. He just opens the file and the file starts to render and rip. Yeah, so that's not a problem, but you need to have something to convert. So the benefit is that everything in the RIP at a certain point will be PDF and then will be ripped. Yeah, you see sometimes other RIPs that they might have. Caldera, for example, has a GoScript RIP and also a PDF RIP. If it is a non-PDF RIP, they will actually a non-PDF file. They will actually go into the GoScript RIP, and the PDF will go into the Adobe RIP. Well, Onyx has chosen to add that normalizer to it, so everything is first converted to PDF. Now, also, what does it do? Those RIPs. Where do I need RIPs? If I have lots and lots of files. So this means if I have 4 RIPs, I can open 4 files at the same time. So if I have 10 files that I want to rip and print, I open those 10. It will start to process immediately 4 files at the same time. Once one of the RIP is ready, it will go with number 5 and continues like that. So the more RIPs you have, the more power you have in calculating your files for printing. It supports standard 2 printers. In the past, there was a difference between wide and ground format. So wide was up to 64-inch, and ground format were like the 3 to 5 meter machines. We no longer make that difference. So any driver that you buy is a wide or a grand. That doesn't matter. Job editor, the word already says it. So you can edit your jobs in there. So you have 2 jobs there. You have a layout tool. where you can do some manual positioning of the files if you want to. You have a production manager, so over the net, if you far away from your production, you could look at with the use of the production manager inside your RIP to see what jobs are currently pending there. Roll-to-roll cutters are included. You see that there's a Suma F, for example, and a GraphTech flatbed. Although those are flatbeds, they are still supported by the basic drive. Any other flatbed cutters like the Zund or the iCut, the Kongsberg, things like that, they are flatbed
Zadzwonił do
cutters,
nich.
and you would actually have
Nie,
to buy
żeby
the
zadzwonił.
flatbed cutting option on drive. Of course, the ICC profile generation is included as Drive is a top product, so you can create your own profiles. Now, if you just a few examples of how I would be able to install a drive. As you can see here, I have one computer and it has 8 RIPs, and I have 6 printers, and I have here 2 job editors. So this means, what does this print only means? The print only means that is a forwarding from this RIP station into a PC that has also an Onyx RIP queue on there, but is only a print station. So it cannot re-rip a file if you want to change anything. So I've chosen the wrong profile. A new profile means that you have to re-rip the file. That cannot happen here. You will see this solution a lot of times, and maybe not with the 6 printers. Maybe you have one print only station driving 2 printers or 3 printers. Yeah, but you have to be aware that you cannot do anything other than hit the print button. This is happening quite a lot when you have a company that simply has pre-press making the RIPs, the files ready, and the print actual side are really print operators that are only concerned with the fact print, maintain the product, load materials, and things like that. You can also see here, if I'm going to run 8 RIPs on this PC, you need a rather powerful PC there. You have, we recommend that each RIP is requiring at least 8 gigabyte. So in this case, I would need 64 gigabytes for and even more, because now the more memory you put in there with 64 bits and a 64 bits program, the more you gain with it, the better it will be. Here is just an example where we're just printing directly from. This is a RIP and print PC. So you RIP, somebody outside this PC, maybe on the prepress, has a job editor and creates file, and I can still go on this PC, I can still edit jobs and send this over. Yeah. Again, you still have 8 printers. This is even, this is ripping and then at a certain printing also. So this is require also more heavier PCs. The configuration that we actually see the most is more similar to that, where you actually do a little bit more load balancing on different PCs. Now, if you look at this one has the same 8 RIPs. Now we have just divided it because that's a possibility with Thrive. I can divide all my resources over different computers. Yeah, I have 6 printers that I need to run. I have 8 RIPs and 2 job editors. So in this case, I've installed in here all my 2 printers here, 2 printers here, 2 printers here, and I divided my RIPs up. I have job editors in front, maybe in my pre-press department. What I also see a lot, that these job editors are actually on these PCs. Now, if you have a license for 2 job editors, I can still install 3 job editors on these PCs. I can install 10 job editors if I want to. But because it's a floating license, as soon as computer 1 and 2 have a job editor open, number 3 cannot open a job editor anymore, because I only have 2 on the license. If number 1 closes his job editor, number 3 can open the job editor again. Yeah, so that's a little bit depending how people want to work. In most cases, what you see here is that people will buy an optional third job editor and install it so they don't have to open and close their software. Now the license in here, this is a drive with a license for 6 printers. So that means every connection here is a license, is a permission to run the printer. So in this case, if I want to go from this PC and I want to go direct to this printer here, it would require the 7th printer permission because I want to go direct. Well, there's basically no need because I can also go through this PC and print there. So I can open and go through my printer, for example, and say looking at the print manager, and I will find this printer. It looks like at that point that I'm saying print to this printer, but what I'm basically doing, I'm printing towards this print queue. And then it will stay here until I hit print, and then it will go to this printer. So I will not have a direct connection with this. What I always do, what I always advise to do with an installation like this is to make sure that on each PC you install these 6 printers, but you will not activate them. So you make sure that your one PC
6 PC.
installed, it has all profiles, all the drivers for the whole installation. You can then copy that to number 2, PC number 2 and PC number 3, and then just turn printers 3, 4, 5, and 6 off, and here you turn 1 and 2, 5 and 6 off, and here you do 1, 2, 4, you turn off, and you only have 5 and 6 on. The benefit of that is if you have a crash on one of the computers, I can simply go, if computer 1 damages and it does not run the software anymore, it cannot start, whatever, I can simply go into the PC here and maybe say, oh, I want to add printer 1 on this one, and I want to add printer 2 on this one. Yeah, so you're very flexible because it does not look at any resources. The Onyx key might be installed in one of these 3 PCs. It could also be installed in one of these, if these are on separate PCs. You can run the key from everywhere. So that's a big benefit when you create something like this. Like I said, the production manager, so you can look over the web to see what is in your queue. There's also something that is called a hot backup. You can imagine if you have a situation like this with 6 printers, if for whatever reason the dongle stops working. Now, luckily we don't have a lot of failure on dongles, but sometimes they get damaged. Sometimes they get also stolen. That happens. At that point, the production is completely down because with no dongle, no activation of the software. So on Thrive, we offer something that is called a hot backup option. The way it works is just a copy of the production key that you have, the production Thrive key. If the key has failed, broken, stolen, or whatever, you can install this key and the customer can continue to run. The first time you install it, the first day, it will immediately to start countdown. So even if it is a 30-day, once activated, at 30 days it will stop. Now this gives the customer the time to fix his problem. If it is a key that is broken, we will swap it. If it is a key that is stolen, and then it means he has to buy a new license. But at least he's able to be up and running. Once a hot backup key is not a one-time one-time use. Once it's used and you have fixed your problem, you can contact Onyx and say, hey, I want to reprogram my Onyx hot backup key. And then we just send you a key file for this key. We'll update the key and you can use it the second time. Now also on Thrive, we have something, an optional that is called Onyx Connect. There might be some people familiar with something that is called JDF. JDF stands for Job Description Format. It comes out of the offset industry. They tried to use this JDF years ago, and basically tells me all about the job. Now you slowly see this also entering into the inkjet world, well, where JDF can help us in automation. For example, I have an internet web shop, and my customer can upload files, and he can choose, do I want to print on canvas or acrylic or whatever, but he has a choice. And at the end of his whole routine, he pays his job, and the file has been submitted, and he's going to wait for his job to be printed. Now, in a normal situation, you might have a web shop that delivers an email in a canvas folder in the morning. In the morning, the operator comes in, goes into his folder, sees a couple of emails with jobs, and then opens the file, drags the RIP, and ready. Now, what JDF can do, it can basically automate stuff, because the JDF will arrive with Onyx Connect. I can basically read JDF, and in the JDF I have information like customer name, maybe an order number, things like that. But I have also the location where my file is. So if I'm having a server, the JDF might be sitting on a server somewhere, and the original file is then be found on the server. It goes into the Onyx hot folder. It then automatically resides here in the drive. So in the morning when the operator comes in, his jobs are already inside the RIP. At that moment, it can also provide through a JDF out hot folder a feedback
Ale plus
to the
install jeszcze.
customer's application. So this is, for example, the internet program, the web shop program. So it says, well, it has been printed or it's waiting to be printed, things like that. So to make it very simple, the customer has to send something that is creating a JDF, or sometimes also called XML. Onyx is allowing you to read that JDF or XML file. If you don't have Onyx Connect, it just says unrecognized file format and you cannot read it. So be aware if somebody asks you about it, JDF support, it is there only on Thrive and not on the RIP products. Also on Thrive, you have the possibility to use smart data with Onyx Hub. I can basically, Onyx Hub is it's a program that is using a Windows services that can actually look into the database of my Thrive RIP. Yeah, so I can see what is printed, is it already printed, things like that by an overview. So Onyx Hub is not really something for a print operator. It is more for management. So management can see an overview of jobs. What did I do this day? What do I still have in the queue? What has errored? How many square meters did I print from this job? All kinds of things. How many media did I use? Hey, I have a media waste of 41%. Well, that is quite a lot, of course, but maybe that my guy at the print operator is printing on a 64-inch machine, and he never swaps the roll, and he prints jobs of a meter wide on a 64-inch, and the 50, 60 or the 50 centimeters he throws away. With Onyx Hub, you can basically see, hey, you have a difference. It can also calculate ink consumption, and for some printers, it can also does not calculate, but it gets an actual report back of the actual ink that is used. Some printers, the bidirectional printers, HP Latex, Epson SureColors, Canon Colorado, Canon IPFs, for example, they are bidirectional. They are allowing me to give back the information only after print. This estimation is based on what Onyx had, based on the information inside the RIP of how many pixels are going to be printed. So this reflects to a certain milliliters. So that is Onyx Hub. As I said, it works through a services that you can install on any PC there. every drive has a database you can read out. The only thing is you need to have the permission on Onyx Drive to be able to do that. And Onyx Hub goes through a program that we called Onyx Advantage Gold. So it is not standard there. You would a customer would have to buy that as an option to be able to use that. Same thing together with that Onyx Advantage Gold, we also have an optional color check tool. A color check tool is allowing you to see do I have any variation in print? How consistent am I printing? It requires a measuring device, but I can set it to every hour, every day, every week, every month. And what it will do, it will print a strip and compare that strip to the last one that you have printed. And in that way you can see, is there any am I printing consistent? Am I printing different than from today to yesterday or last week? Unfortunately, there's not a fix me button in there, so that's not saying, oh, fix how I have a problem here, fix me. It only refers to the fact that I might see based on the report that I get from Color Check that I have a cyan problem. So I have a big color difference in cyan. So in that case, I know where to look. I know that I have to look at my cyan channel. Maybe there are some nozzles clogged. But in this case, it's a great tool that tells you all about, hey, consistency over the days, weeks, months. Color consistency for what we call the baseline. Color accuracy, where I can see, hey, how am I printing compared to for example, a Fogra simulation, or in the US, G7 is used quite a lot. And also, I can look at Pantone colors or named colors. How am I printing those, and what is my color shift on those? So it's a tool. I will be honest, it's not for everybody. Not every customer wants to have and is actually checking all this time. But it's for those customers that actually are saying, it is very important for me to stay consistent. I need to make sure that my colors and everything is always at the same level, especially when you're printing brand colors for companies like Coca-Cola and things like that. All right. And of course, we have something that is called a textile tool package. One second. Okay.
Zawsze się zdarzy jakaś męda.
Here we go. So we have a textile tools package which you can include on all products. It is included in Thrive base standard. The standard Thrive, consists of a textile tool. What does it do? You have, of course, your step and repeat. If you're printing a textile, in a lot of cases you want to repeat a pattern. Step and repeat is also used nowadays. For example, if you're doing wallpaper, a lot of people are doing nowadays wallpaper. Well, they also use something like step and repeat. You can see that here. So you can create a pattern. You can have a shift. We'll show you later in the actual job editor where you can set this. It also has colorways. So with people that are in textile, they are familiar with the word colorways. They, in most cases, have a very optimized programs outside the RIP that can do all kinds of things. The colorways that we have is basically saying, okay, I can change colors. I have a file coming in and it's a red dress. I can turn it into green or a blue or whatever with only one file coming into the RIP. Yeah, so it has a basic configuration to change colors on certain files. And we have an ink configuration builder for those people that actually want to put different inks inside their machines. So in this example, for example, the black has been replaced by a lime color. Well, the actual RIP and the profiler needs to know, okay, what is inside that printer. I cannot simply take a color out. Of course, if I'm replacing a black for an OEM black, or then I don't have a problem. It's still noticed as a black. But we see a lot of this happening in Asia, where they just put other colors inside. They might have a neon green. Adding to that one, well, you need to be aware that you describe what is in there. In that case, you also need to make sure that you need to create a profile for these things. All right. Introduction so far. Any questions? All right. Let's continue. If you look at the installation of Onyx, and here, so it always comes on this, for post shop and rip center, you will have this orange key, and you will have the actual that the orange is the one on the top is the actual installer, and this is the actual security key. So without that security key, your product is not running. Now, what we're doing inside Onyx, we are in the progress of releasing soft licenses. So that means in the future, and I think between now and 3 months, we are able to offer a soft license. And also, show you in a minute in the license manager that you see we are already prepared. That means that we do no longer have to ship dongles worldwide. It is just a license that is there. Customer, of course, requires with the soft license a internet connection. Otherwise, we cannot update. However, we are still keeping the hardware keys also. So for those customers that are not allowed with their computers on the internet, government, print shops, things like that, or security things, they can still have a security USB key, hardware key. Now, what is important? This is unreadable. Let me show you here. This is a little bit better. About our specifications. So we do Windows 10, 8, and 7. Anything below that is not supported. Of course, Windows is not even supporting it anymore, so we are not either. So you need the 64 bits. So if you have a Windows 32 bits, it will not gonna be running. Okay, the quicker your processor is, the better. Memory, you see here 4 gigabyte or 16 gigabyte is minimum. If you want to have the Thrive with 4, I mentioned 8 gigabyte before. It's actually 4. So if I have a Thrive with 4 rips, I would have a minimum of 16 gigabyte. But I would, I've seen, running at 32 or 64 is much better. Storage, of course, is a little bit depending how much how many printers you have connected to it. Some people use use SSD add-ons to when they have multiple printers, because we are spooling on disk. And if you look at displays, there's nothing special required. No special video card or things like that. Of course, I need to have USB ports if I'm driving. Some printers still have only USB, but I have also color devices that are driven by USB. And then, of course, it's something like the Windows power settings, high performance. Sometimes you have something like turbo boost involved on PCs. I would always turn that off. Now, if we go here, load it. Go back to the installation. Where were we? There we are. Cool. There we go. So if you go, we'll go back to the installation. So if there is already a version of Onyx on there, we have to be careful. If you're running currently a version, for example, version 18, if I will be installing a new version, it will not override my 18 directory, but it will create a new directory on x21. Yeah. If you're currently running at 21.0 and you want to install the 21.1, it overrides the existing installation. Yeah. You can keep your printers and stuff like that, but I always want to make sure before I do this, I make a copy. I can make a backup copy of the printer installer, and that can you do an update. You can also update or copy the complete Onyx folder into a different disk. That what happens during the install, and so it's good to have a backup copy. Yeah, so actually when you start, it always gives you notifications about the user account control and antivirus programs. For installation, we don't really like these antivirus programs because they block stuff and sometimes they turn funny things on and off, and that's not good for the RIP. So I would actually before you start, make sure you turn it off. And you can later turn it on with exceptions to certain folders of Onyx. Then you can do that, but then it still works. But for installation, it's critical that you turn it off. The user account control you can set to never notify. Otherwise, every time when something happens, you have to click on to accept it. So easy. Some people are not administrators on their PCs, although they think they might be an administrator, but they need to have administrator rights to do that. And of course, you need to put your key, the red key in there, and then you put the orange key in there, and then you can start with your installation. It's install Onyx. Just select install. The first time, what it does, it will always install the key driver, so the actual driver, what we call the HASP driver. That is something that is on that we need for the key. And then you will get a display of where do you want to install that, and we'll do that in a minute live to actually install that. And then it will give you a notification about the user admin control and things like that. That you need to be sure that you turn it off. And then at the end, when it's done with your installation and you have chosen a printer to select, it comes up with the screen. How do you want to configure your printer? Is it a USB or is it a TCP/IP? Now Thrive is not per se different. The only thing what you can do with Thrive, if you're running the program installer, in this case, it will also install the key driver. Yeah, so you go to the PC where you want to install the actual key, you run the key driver install, and when that is done, it actually comes to this screen here on the left side where it says, okay, now I'm going to install the actual software. In this case, when I'm not installing Thrive on this PC, but I'm only installing the key, I can just hit cancel, pull the installation USB drive out, go to my next PC, open up the installer. At that point, it will start searching the network for the license key, which is in the other computer. It will find it, and then it will come to this one, and then you can choose what do you want to do here. Do I have a job editor only station, or do I have also a RIP component? Do I also want to have the RIP queue? I want everything. You can select it here, or maybe I only have a cutter station here, where I have a cutter connected that is maybe in a different area. So You install it at this with the new installer from Onyx. It also is asking you how many RIPs do you want to activate. So if you have 4 RIPs and you want to share the RIPs over 2 computers, you can say 2 or 1, and maybe you want 1 RIP on this one and the other one has 3 RIPs. That is all possible. And that is what you see here also in your general settings, the number of RIPs. Yeah, that's important. If you have that print workstation, so that print, only remember that first screen where I had, okay, I have a RIP PC and then I have a print only PC where I only print. That is where you put your number of RIPs to 0, because it does not make sense. You cannot rip the RIP file, the original RIP file. The data file is not on the computer, because the RIP computer only sent a print file towards that print station. So there's no need to use a RIP here, because you cannot use it. You put it to 0. And then print forwarding to, this is the print forwarding. It is looking for the queue on another computer in the network. So in this case, you have to make sure that you have access to that other computer, that files and folders are open and they are not blocked by security or whatever. Because I need to be able, in this example, you see 3 different computers. I need to be able to access that computer. That's important. So sometimes you might need, when you do an installation, you might need an IT guy to help you with opening up and giving you permissions to certain folders. Yeah, and only a job editor that you can install. You will know no printers will be installed. You will just go through the printer manager to find them on the network. Same thing here. So you have a printer manager and you will go through the network, browse, and then you will find your different printers on the network. Now the drive is using a license, so I can actually go type into my computer, say localhost 1947, and it will give me information about my actual Thrive license. Yeah, so I can go to the configuration. I can look at what is happening, and you can also see if there's maybe some conflicts. Yeah, so that's a tool. Hopefully, you will not be able to. You have to use it quite a lot, but we see sometimes that here in this example, I have 10 printers, 8 are in use, and somebody else launches another Thrive that is using 4 printers. Then it will say, I cannot do that because you're using too many licenses. Yeah, so in that case, with that licensing, with the local host, with about the key, you can actually see what's going on. It tells you what number of RIPs you have. Those things. We use that a lot, or our support department use that a lot when people are saying, I have a license issue. It does not give me enough printers. What's going on? Production manager, you can actually do open a job and submit it to the RIP from there. I can actually say, okay, open here, submit new job, set information, and run it. What important with that production manager is by default, the production manager is on port 80. That a lot of times that port is in use by the firewall. So I always use a lot of times here port 8080. And then Onyx cannot use it. So you can just access it by typing the IP address of the PC there, and :80 or :8080 in this case. Yeah, so that's basically installation of that software. So if I would actually go to my actual website allows me to download software. Yeah, so here's a button called downloads. Be aware, if you want to download software, you have to have a My Onyx account. I I know this is going to change in the future. You will be able to access the downloads easily without having a login, but right now it's still there. So if I go to downloads here and I want to download a product, for example, I have the customer already has Onyx but bought an upgrade to the new 21.1. He does not have a dongle of 21.1 because when we update the dongle, we only send him a key update. So he needs, or you might need to install that. So if I go to full products here, I can go to download. But if I go to download, you see immediately it drops me to the My Onyx page. So I would have to log in here and actually get access to my downloads. So in downloads, then I can go to full products. Onyx is also offering product trials. So if you have a customer that wants to try the software, that's also a possibility. You have a full product here for 30 days. So if I download a product trial, you can see here I have Onyx Hub and Thrive and TrueFit and Poster Shop, and I can just use this. So I don't have an Onyx Rip Center, but I do have an Onyx Poster Shop to try. It's a 30-day trial, unlimited. You can print with it for 30 days. So now I have to go to Thrive. If I hover over here at the bottom of my page, you will see in here it will show you that it actually is going to download the Thrive 21.1. Yeah, so that is my version. If I need a later version, I can actually go here into the legacy download page. So if I click on this one, I will actually find all the products. So in here you will find something 21.0.1. You will find 19. Be aware of that any Onyx product below version 18 is no longer supported by Onyx, because we call that legacy products. That means, for example, if the customer has a version 12 and his computer crashes and he does not have the USB anymore of the installation, he goes to our website and he cannot find version 12 anymore. At that point, we will have to tell him that he needs to upgrade. He can still upgrade his key to a new version, but that means he has to invest money. Yeah, version 12 is more than 5-6 years old. So we said, you have to upgrade. So unless you guys still have a copy of version 12, you can help him. But if he is going to the Onyx website, he will not find an Onyx 12 product more, and he will not find a printed driver for 12 or lower, or 12 and lower. Yeah, so that is important to know. Anything 18 is the latest that we support. Anything below, it's 12, it's 11, it's 10, 7, 8, 6, and 5. Those are the versions that are no longer supported. Yeah. Now, once downloaded, it actually puts a little here. It puts it here on my computer. Hold on. And you will actually see here a little icon that is called Onyx Thrive 21.1 Exe. If I double click that, it actually installs a folder on my desktop that I chose that one, and it actually has here an install.onyx.exe. So if I double click that one, it says you want to have a help file. No, I don't want to. I'm just going to click install. It says, do you want to agree with the terms? Okay. Of course, everybody reads this. And then it's going to say installing drivers for licensing. Of course, at this moment, you will have to have your key inside the computer, or at least in the network where maybe on the other PC the license is already installed. Yeah, so it takes some time. Look, make sure that you install the driver if needed. What we call at that point the HASP driver. and at that point, at a certain point, it will continue with my actual installation screen on what I want to do. Now, of course, here we go. It should be in here somewhere. So now it's saying, please wait while it's detecting my license. There we go. So if you're not coming here at this point, you know it is not seeing the license. Yeah. So then you have a problem with either the key or cannot find the key in one way or the other. Now this is my screen. It says it's going to install my drive at Onyx Drive 21 on C. What Onyx always does is trying to find or it looks for the disk with the most space. So if you have a C and a D drive and D has more space, it will automatically come up with D. I can always go to browse and change it. Yeah. Here it also says how many RIPs do I want to install. Yeah, and even like this, I cannot go higher than 6. I can go lower. If I know that I have a, this is only my computer, so I'm installing it on this one. So here I'm fine here. It is also looking at the fact that it found some older printer drivers from older versions. Yeah. Now, to be sure that you don't have a driver problem, because what is happening? We build drivers for separate versions. So it could be that the version 18 driver that you have is not compatible with version 21. So in that case, I don't want to install my printer drivers here because I know it comes from an older version. Yeah, I can import later. I can import profiles and things like that, but I just don't want to make sure. I don't want to have the old driver being used. I just want to make sure that I have, the latest and greatest of the new version. So I just have to deselect all these and make sure that I don't have any of these installed. And you can have quite a bunch of printers installed. Even if you don't have the license, you can still have all these drives installed. Now, once you have finished this, you can install it. And then once the installation is done, we can actually go to the downloader and actually download a driver from there. Because in that case, I know for sure that if I take the download manager, I have the latest driver for the version that I'm selecting. And that's the most important one. Select your driver with the version that you currently are installing or with the version that you're currently going to install. Right. So click on install. It's basically installing my software. It puts my program on the computer. It puts my shortcuts on the computer. It puts a shortcut on my desktop regarding the Onyx program, and it should be installing a license manager and things like that to be able to activate certain stuff. Okay, and now I can say finish. You see here's already a couple of icons installed.
Z tego co wiem,
I
to
hit
jeszcze nie ma.
finish. And now it says, okay, welcome to the printer install. It wants to install a printer driver. So now I can actually go to the download manager and download the actual driver that I want. So that particular is a program that is connected to an Onyx web server, and you can see here that I have different versions.
Powiedzmy, zapytam, wiesz,
Yeah, for example, you will find out here a driver for a certain printer. Now you will also find out that some of the printer drivers are not supported in certain versions. Yeah, we actually have a web page where I can actually look here. If I go here to supported devices and I click on printers, I get a complete list of all my printers. Onyx has about 2,500 printer drivers available for the products. So I can actually see, and I can also search here for which version it is. For example, let's take the new HP example. And you see here, for example, the HP Latex 700 White. My version is 21.0. So the minimum version that I need is 21. So if I have a customer that has an Onyx version 19, he's buying a Latex 700, either normal or with white, he needs version 21. You can also see in which product it is supported. In Rip Center is optional, so you would have to buy an update to be able to run it. It's standard in Poster Shop, standard in Thrive, standard in Production House. If I would see if we find this one, take a different one. Look at here at Epson, and I would find all my different Epsons, and I could also find here my Sure colors. Yeah, so again here an Epson Sure color, many models here. I have an 800L, and you can see that I need to have a minimum of 18.5. Yeah, so in that case, that helps you to find the driver. Because in here, if I would go to this driver section here, if I would go in here and say, for example, my customer has Onyx 19 in there, and I go to HP. There. And then you will have all my drivers for HP, and you'll see here that there is no Latex 700W or Latex 800W. It simply does not exist here. I cannot have a driver. And be aware, drivers are not downwards compatible. So if I have a version 21.1, I cannot install that in version 19. It will give you an error saying, you need a higher version of software. So if I take the 21.1, then and I go to the HP, in that case, here, HP, and then look at my list. And you see now I have these drivers available. Now, what you always need to do, if I select a driver like this, you would always have to select the minimum of 1. If I click on this one, on this little plus, you see there's nothing behind it. So in this case, I would actually have to select this. It always downloads the driver plus a profile. Now in this case with an HP, I don't need profiles because I can synchronize on the machine. But if I have another printer driver, I might need to download printer files. So if I go to my, for example, to the Epson there, and I'm saying, okay, I have this Sure color, and I have a, let's see here, an 8600. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing how we do this. You see here an 8609 color. This is the actual 8610 colors. So with white. In this case, if I select this printer here, you will see a test media, and I also see some other media there. So, you see here, if I take this one, for example, I actually have a printer driver. I can hit download now. It asks me, okay, where do you want to install this? Keep this on my on my desktop, and then it will start to download at a certain point to get that printer drive to be able to install it. Do that again. Okay, downloading printer files. Now, depending on the product that you need, on the way that Onyx works, if we receive a request to build a printer driver for any brand, it could be Mimaki, Roland, Epson, HP, does not matter. We always ask the manufacturer of the printer, do you want us to add profiles to Words? So if they have any profiles, we will put them in. If there's no profiles, sometimes you will find a printer driver that has no profiles, or maybe one. That means you would actually source somewhere, maybe of the supplier of your media. They might have some media profile. Maybe you have already created your own profiles before. Then you can use that. But if you don't have anything, you would need to create a media. Now, on devices like HP and Epson, for example, they already have a big range of medias available. So you can download it actually on the HP on the printer, and then it will synchronize with Onyx. On Epson, they use a dashboard, and there you can download profiles. On others, you might have, for example, a company like Muto. They have a complete website where they also store Onyx profiles. Now, some of them are for older versions, but if you're importing a profile for the newer version, that is still working. So I can import a profile from version 12 into version 21. The only thing what I don't have, I use the basic profile, but if I'm able to have more features in the 21 profile, I'm not using that option, but it will still work. So I can click on OK now. I can move this one away, and I can actually see that here I actually have downloaded a printer driver. So if I go now browse, then I can actually click on the printer. In this case, I've loaded a family because they have multiple units. They call it. I will actually click on this 8600. I will say install. It says I need to have a communication driver for media synchronization and the dashboard. Here, for example, it says I need a communication driver. I'm not going to install that right now, but if you're running an Epson, you need that driver. So it will install everything that is regarding for the actual printer driver. Finish that one off, and then my software will open. Depending how big the driver, of course, is. If I have done some more installations, then I can, or if I have some more printers with all the profiles and things like that, I might be able to that. It takes a longer time. So now I hit finish, and that basically is now going to start my software. It says me, okay, you want to register. I can do next, and then it will check me. At a certain point, it will say, do not remind me anymore, and then you're good. So Epson works in this case with a dashboard for saying things that they want to look. So you actually need to type in a serial number here, which I don't have because I'm not connected to this serial number. So I'm going to say whatever. It's actually going to look in a minute. Now here I'm going to say, okay, how am I connected? So in the normal cases, people are connected with 99% out of the cases with a TCP/IP. Okay. Now in my case, of course, and maybe in a lot of your cases also, if you want to present something, show something to the customer, you can only do print to file because you are not connected. But if you are connected, here you see your TCP. Here's USB if you still want to use it, USB. This is your print forwarding. So this is where you actually say, now I need to find on my network a different PC to actually print to that other controller. Sometimes they say it's better to print to the Windows printer driver if the actual manufacturer has one. For this, a lot of times you will not have a Windows printer driver. And this is what I use quite a lot on demonstrations. I need to go to configure and say, okay, whenever I print, I have this file stored on my desktop, and I am at that point good to go. Now, in here with this specific printer, only it's because it's an apps and it will take some more time because it's trying to synchronize with the printer and the dashboard. Yeah, and here you go. It says unable. Well, I say, well, I will disable it for a while. Click on OK, and basically, at a certain point, this one is now green, and now I'm ready to print. So on the top here, I have my printer or printers. I can have multiple ones. Here I have my tools. Here is actually my overview of the print and what media I have loaded. Here's my preview if I want to see something. Here's actually my jobs, and here's my actual jobs that have been printed or have given me an error. Okay. Now what you see here, if I go to File, General Settings, sometimes when I go to configure something, it will say the server is going to stop. Well, if the server is going to stop, it means that anything that I'm printing or that I'm ripping will also stop. So be aware, if you just click yes, the process will stop. So you should not do that and let the printer finish. But if I click on yes here, you have a different settings. You see that I have on my demo key, I'm using the Onyx demo key, I have 10 rips. I am using 6. The reason why is it's on 6, I only have 6 processors inside my laptop. So it does not make sense to put it on 10 if I can only use 6. But if somewhere in my network there will be another PC that starts up Onyx, that PC can then use 4 rips that I have left over. Yeah. Now you see here the the web portal enable port 8080. Proxy setup is something that we're using more and more, especially when the soft licensing comes to be able to go through the actual firewall with a proxy setup. Now you have you have languages here, so you can set if your language is not there. Unfortunately, we don't have every language. And do you want to do English in inches or do you want to do metric? Here's a couple of settings. Do I want to preview, for example, things like that? Right now it keeps it requires a free space of 500 megabyte. Here is something what you use on Onyx Hub. So because I'm using a drive, it keeps data in my database for 90 days. Yeah, so it builds in my database. So if I would activate Onyx Hub after 80 days for the customer, he can still see his history from 80 days ago. Yeah, you can, of course, you can put it longer. The maximum is a year, but you can also put it on 0 that it does not give any data. Here on the top is also some presets. Do not rip jobs that are on hold. So what happens in Onyx when you open a file, it always starts to rip. That is standard how we deal with the rip. Sometimes you say I don't want to do that. Well, you can say okay, if jobs are on hold, they will not rip. The other one is like if the media is not set to, I will not rip. I will wait. Yeah. And the other two is reprocess when shared images are changing. So over the net, when you have multiple files that are changed, you can turn it on, reprocess it. And if I want to have virtual printers, so virtual printers is basically allowing me to print from the application. This is, for example, if I'm on a Mac and I have Photoshop running and I want to print direct out of Photoshop, I can actually install a virtual printer if it's enabled here, and the job will automatically arrive. Not very common anymore. Most of the people are using, saving it to PDF and just open PDFs. And so those are basic settings. Let me go to the actual license manager. Here it says something bidirectional because this printer is very bidirectional. It says it doesn't give me any feedback. Okay, that's fine. I'll go close this one off for a second. What you see here is that we have also had a license manager here. The license manager actually shows me, people that are familiar with Onyx, we used to have something called What's on My Key. That has been replaced by the license manager. The license manager gives me all kinds of details what I have on my key. I have actually 20 printers, I have 10 rips, I have 21.1 with this key number, and it actually expires on December 4th. Yeah, so this is all my stuff. I can see what kind of jobs do I can do JDF, for example, so I have it turned on. I have 10 job editors, so I have a fully working demo license. I also have a tab here called Key Update. The actual Key Update, if I go in here, it actually opens up a program for Onyx that is allowing me to get updates from the Onyx server. Now, be aware of the fact that, for example, if I am currently at 21.0 and I have requested the update to 21.1 because I'm still entitled to get a free upgrade. Onyx needs to always activate the update. So in our system, we need to say, please enable this key for 21.1. In the past, you were always getting an email, here's your key update. Now, in this case, you are still getting it, but you can also go into this little program. If Onyx has done the key update, I can go to say apply update, it will find the key update. Same thing for customers that if they added an extra printer, so they paid to have an extra printer, we'll update the key. In here, you can actually apply it, and it will actually do an extra key update there. Yeah. So don't get the mistake that I can actually ask for updates and apply updates. We first physically need to make sure that the key has the extra printer, a newer version, or things like that. That's important to understand. Now you can also see here that activate a new license. This is the soft license that I was talking about. So this will become within a couple of months available, where you actually, customers that are bought a license, they will get a number and they can actually activate it here. Yeah, that's the most important part of the license service. Let's go back to the actual RIP queue, because that is our program that is basically the most important, because with that one it does not work anymore. You saw that for a minute that it says license manager failed. Don't know if it's still there here. That is probably because what I did in here, I kept it on that soft license. So therefore it actually gave that error. But you have also seen that it has restarted also here my software. So that was just because of the fact that it's looking for that license. With that soft license, I don't have it active. Oh, here we go. All right, so a couple of things about the top. So I can open files here. My job editor is now gray because there's no active jobs in here. I have my cut server. We'll come to that in a minute, or later this afternoon probably. Media Manager for profiling, quick sets for template for presets. I can configure my printer. I can recalibrate my printer if I have a measuring device. I can do swatch books, so Pantone colors and change, and I can actually have my color check. Yeah. Here on the bar on the top, I can also, do things like edit quick sets, things like that. And so that is more the shortcut. Here on this bar, I can also add more stuff what I want to see. So if maybe I have a customer name that I want to always see in here because that's why I'm working, and maybe I have a order number that I want to see. Yeah, so in that case, you will see these things are move. I can move those around and actually say, okay, I want this one here and this one here, or you can actually move these things and make them a little bit wider. Yeah, so in that case here, you can say, okay, now I want my customer
Mówili mi,
to be
że
on the back, and my order number should also be on the back of
czasami
my.
jak
And you can move them
tłumaczenie
around,
było, to tak.
make them smaller, bigger, things like that. Just how you want that for your customer.
Słuchaj, jakie mam być
So here's media set with a 64 inch. So assume that this in my printer I have a Magic Solvent 64 inch in. I can actually go into open here. Now all the Onyx that you will install will always have a sample folder. So you will see here Thrive 21 samples, and those are a couple of simple files, but there's also a good file for quality evaluation if you have created a profile, for example. There's a cutting file if you want to test your cut file. And the wine and cheese are very, people have seen this probably for years now, that is something that we use quite a lot. I use that quite a lot for demoing and explaining. So what you see here is I opened the file, and when I clicked on open, I have a few parameters here. These parameters here, I have to manually enter them. So, if I say here company ABC, and maybe, I can have order 1, 2, 3. And then if I open the same file, it will actually pop up with these things that I want. Yeah, now I have an order number there, and you will see it automatically pops up there. Let's mute. So now you have 2 files popping up there in my rip queue with a preview. Both are on the same media, so therefore they are grouped together to be able to print. Now what can I do? I can actually, with the file, I can double click on the file, and it actually tells me the size, what percentage do I have, how many copies do I want. I can hold for the operator, so it goes on pause. If it is a certain printer, depending on the printer type, I can calculate, I can reverse, I can turn, I can choose a different media if I want to. Yeah, so in this case, I've only downloaded one media, so I can go, well, here's a frontlit, backlit, and a frontlit. So if I click on backlit and I click on OK, now in this case, you see here, backlit, because I've changed the profile, it is changing my profile up here. It is re-rendering and re-ripping my file. Yeah. Now, double clicking is the easy way, but you cannot do everything on the double click. Basically, if you want to do some more editing, you actually go into the job editor. Now, what you see here is this side here. It actually shows me the jobs there. Now let's open up another one, and let's take the quality evaluation. in here you will see if I click on this little radar, it actually tells me which media do I want to select. Some of the printers can auto synchronize with the RIP and say when I put this media inside the printer, it will switch. Some of them can only see the width of the media that is installed. Some of them cannot do anything. You basically have to set everything yourself. So here you will see only your media. If you have certain medias that are not in the list, you see all these greens are standard. You can always add a certain media, give it a name and say, okay, this is a 63-inch roll, or it's a sheet if you have a possibility to run sheets on your printer. Yeah, so you can manually always add that. In here, add. Some of them have the possibility to say query printer, and then it can ask the printer what the width of the machine of the media that is inserted.
Aha.
So I click on OK here, done. Now you see here 4 different settings. So I have conserve media, which is what we call nesting. We have groups together, which is also sort of nesting, but in a different way. I'll explain you in a minute. I can print one by one, and if I have an XY cutter from Photoba, for example, or from Flexa, I need to set that. And an XY cutter is not a contour cutter, so it only cuts horizontal and vertical in case of if you want to do tiles or wallpaper or things like that. Now, if you put it to a certain setting, there's here a function where you say placement. Now, a couple of settings what you can do. I can actually start my software on a time base. So whatever is in my queue, I can say if I turn this one on, my printer needs to start printing every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. I can set that to a certain time, so it will start to print whatever jobs are ready. I would be able also to do it on how full the roll is. And you see your percentage full, and you see here on the right corner, right now it's at 63. Because I'm on the roll, it only looks at the width. Because the length can be, in my case here, look at this media size, 64, it can be 60 meters long. So it says I'm not going to look at the 60 meters, so it only looks at the width. Of course, if you have a sheet, then it's different because then it could look at the complete sheet. I have settings to do offsets, so I can say maybe I want to always have a certain white area. I'm going to use a cutter afterwards. I want some free space to move my material around. I can actually set a certain dimension here. Same on the end, same on the left or right. If I know I have a printer with some problems and it always prints the first 10 centimeters wrong, then I can actually put a margin here and say, okay, let's move my image away from a little bit from the left side. Of course, your imageable area will be smaller, but I'm preventing for having problems on the left side. I can print a color strip, so it will actually have a color strip here on the side. I can print from left or right or the middle. And I can flip a tile. And this is basically when I'm printing panels, tiles. When I turn this one up, on every second, fourth, sixth, eighth tile will be rotated when printing. And when you mount it, when the guys actually mount it, he will rotate it back. So this is for overcoming problems with a printer that is showing some difficulties in color balance from left to right. Yeah, so if I'm printing and my printer is left to right, left a little bit lighter and right a little bit darker, then if I'm printing tiles, I'm actually mounting them together, then the light is mounted against the dark. Yeah, if I flip the tiles, I can actually mount light to light because I'm printing the second tile. I'm printed at 180 degrees. So still light and dark, but if I'm actually going to mount it, I'm actually attaching the light dark, and then the second one is going to be dark light, and the second one is going to be light dark again. So I'm overcoming problems of this. On the newer machines nowadays, you will not. It's less of a problem or hardly any problem anymore. But if you look at the old-fashioned printers, the solvent, some of the eco solvent, the older ones, they still have that problem. Now here I can go to options, and with options it tells me if I'm on the media, I can do a best fit and allow rotate. Yeah, so the RIP will look at the file. Hey, can I fit this one better if I rotate the file? I can set a certain settings if you want, 5mm between your jobs. I can set that. You can set it to 0, whatever you like. The percent to cache before printing is something really from the old days, not so active anymore that you needed to have to cache all the data before you were actually sending it to the printer. Nowadays, all PCs and printers are so quick, we don't see a lot of issues anymore. Of course, if I have a cutter, I can actually make the marks a little bit darker if there's difficulty in reading the marks. Maybe because of the media, maybe because of the actual eye that is on the cutter is not so good anymore. I can actually make the marks darker. If I want to print rows at the time, it actually prints all these rows here together, and it does not create separate pages. So it creates one bigger file. I can also do a nest outline, a cutting outline on my complete file. And we'll show you this afternoon in the cut server what that does. Now I click on OK. And you see, okay, these were turned. It does not do quite a lot, but it says, oh, maybe it's better to turn this. What you need to be think of in conserve media, it is a nesting tool that is based on algorithm. That sometimes means that it behaves a little bit different than our human brain. We think, oh, if I put that one there and I put that one there, it should fit. Why does the RIP not do it? Well, based on algorithm with zeros and ones, it simply does not always what you think is the best. Unfortunately, I cannot move this around. These are RIP data, and I cannot click on it and move it around. That's not possible. However, if I want to influence this a bit, I can also go to the groups together. Groups together again has the same front panel, but the second tab is a little bit different. It says the grouping is by tiles and by copies. So if I have tiles, they will be all together. If I say 5 copies, there will be 5 copies together. You'll see there is no allow rotate or anything like that. The rest is the same. I can still say print all rows at one time. So I have one page, horizontal copying. So copies them on the horizontal way, and I have that generate nest outline also available. And I can click on OK here. So it will not auto rotate. And what is happening, it actually looks at the sequence in my print queue here. So for example, if I would move this one up in my queue, and it goes to the second page, you will actually see that this one is changing. I can go one more up, and it's actually, there. I could say, maybe if this one is, say 150%, click on OK. See what happens. It re-rips my file again. There you go. It's like this. Second page. Maybe if I look here, conserve media, you see it is actually now turned this one and this one, and it actually fits in that way. So there's 2 ways to do this. The conserve is auto nesting. Now some people don't want to do it because it could be in their cutting structure. They have to cut quite a lot because everything is mixed up. Some people prefer to to use groups together. It's just depending a little bit. Now, what is important? What the question that we get quite a lot is when you do a nest. Let's do like this. No, when you do a nest, I can actually, remove these. And I only have this one available. Now, if I could say, if I want a certain number of copies, I can say here. Put 5. And you see in here that it actually puts the 4 like this and it rotates the 5th like that. If I'm having a resolution, let's see what the resolution is here. I cannot see it. It does not described in here. But what happens quite a lot is that people want to print here, these, let's assume these 4 or 5 fits on this page, and the number 6. See what happens. It will make 6. It turns like that. Okay. But if you have, for example, 6 images, and they're all being portrait, and it is, I can have 5 on the row, you would expect that number 6 would then be turned in a landscape position to save media. Now, this is only possible when you have what we call a square resolution. So if it is a resolution of 720 by 720, then you can do that, because then the resolution for both horizontal and vertical is the same. So I can turn any other file, the 2nd file, the 6th file. But if the resolution is not square, so you see 720 by 1440 or 800 by 500 by 800, whatever device you have, then it cannot put that. Then it cannot rotate that file automatically. So square resolution, it works. Non-square, it does not work, and you would actually have to manually rotate file, or you cannot manually rotate the copy. You would actually have to reopen the file and rotate that one copy manually. That is just the fact of that this is RIP data, and you simply cannot change that there. Of course, you have something here that is called print jobs individually. That means 1 by 1. And you see I can still have here settings, print rows at all time. If I click that one and hit OK, you will see now the gray line, the page separator, is disappeared. So now it prints it once. So with print jobs individual, you basically have to click. It does not do any nesting. It just says whatever is involved in the queue, I will print. And of course, in here you have then your photoba, so your XY cutter, where you can also do some placements in here, where I can say, okay, do I want to have single line and double lines? So single horizontal lines, how far do they need to be off from my image? Things like that. Do I want to, put the lines close to my image? And here's a little bit new button that we have done. That is in 21.1 new. If I click on change this, there's a driver for some different photobas, for example, where I can select that one, and it has different settings for that one. You can see there's a little note also. 2mm of bleed is recommended for printed. So you need to bleed. You see that I cannot select anything anymore. That's because I chose this model. Maybe in here it's a little bit different. 3 millimeters. But here, if I just do default, then I can change these parameters. The other one are forced into a certain default settings. So those are the files where you can do like your placements on conserve media. Here's also the little loop, and it's grayed out. I don't know why it's grayed out always, but it actually shows me a print preview of my nest. So when you go over this one, you can actually see what is happening in your print preview. So here again, media and your placement of your media. Now, when I created here a file, I saw here that there is something called quickset. Quickset basically is a template. It's a template where I can set certain things. Yeah, so for example, if I go to edit quickset, it only sees my default quicksets. I don't have a button here to create a new quickset. That means I have to go to configure printer only the first time when I create a quickset. I actually say here new, and then I can put all kinds of presets in my quicksets. For example, it would be nice that I can force in a quickset my media towards a certain setting. So maybe I'm going to say, okay, this is a CMYK, it's a magic solvent, and I don't want to have. I want to have the front lid, and I just call this magic solvent, magic. And maybe I want to. All of the files that I always get in are rotated automatically at 90 degrees. Maybe that's the case. Magic 90. I just do it like that. I click on OK. It is saved here, magic 90. Click on OK there. Basically here now I've added a quickset called magic 90. Now I'm going to make sure that we remove this one so we can actually see what is happening. Delete. And I'm going to put this one on groups together because I know with groups together it is not rotated automatically. So I can now go in open. I take my wine and cheese. Now I can take magic 90. You already see that the rotate, that's the preset. I open my file. And it's already doing a preset. Quicksets can be extremely easy to use for customers because it saves them so much time by adding. I see so many customers that are actually going into the job editor, opening the job editor to do 3 or 4 things, close it and print, where they can also automate this by putting things in a preset. Why would you, if you know that you're going to print this on an Avery vinyl, why not create a quickset with an Avery vinyl? So when I open the file, it already rips to the right. If I don't do that, and I have a file of 1 meter by 1 meter, 1200 dpi, when I open that file, it takes a while, and then I find out, oh, it's the wrong media, so I need to double click, change the media again. It will take double time. So a quickset is easy to do that. Now, what the benefit is of a quickset is also that on the moment that I save a quickset, it is also right away a hot folder. I'll show you in here. Make this one a little bit smaller, and you will see in here in my folder here on Windows, my PC, my C drive, and I can actually see here Onyx Drive 21, and the actual input folder resides in a folder called input. So I can go into input and I see that I have my printer here. And I also see that I have a file here called Magic90, or a folder. The info file, do not touch it. That is the information what is in the quickset. Now, if I go find me a sample in here, and let's have a look. Where do we have samples? Here, customer files, so on examples. So let's take this one here. I'm going to say copy. Now I'm going to throw it in this folder, paste. And you actually see it is removed out of my Magic90 folder, but it's still here. And it is rotated because it was a landscape and now it's a portrait file. Yeah. What happens, so the minute that you create a quickset, is automatically in hot folder that is shared over the network. So people can drag and drop files in here and it will take that setting of the Magic90. Now, if I go back in here in Thrive, you have something here at the bottom that is called work. In the work directory, there's actually my actual file. So you see here, I have the bed of tulips and the wine cheese. A couple of things. I have a job preview, that is actually the preview. I have the actual file. I have a status, it says waiting to print. And I have a web JPEG for production manager, so it sees that I get also on my web page a little bit file there. Now, what you see is, for example, if I say I don't want to have this file, I click on this and I can drag it down. Just because it's going to take forever when I print this, but it stays in my RIP. It now moved into archive. And you see here, Bed of Tulips logo is now archive. If I'm hitting here the print button, and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to print this one. Remember, I have only sending it to my desktop. So it will drop down here, and now I actually have a buffered sentence. So I have wait to print, I have buffered, I have archive, and I have busy. That means the file is open in the job editor or something is happening. Now, what you see is quite a lot is that customers are having this low area, the buffered area, very full with data. It could be terabytes that they have in there because they never throw files away. They always think they have to reprint files, and they are wondering why it takes so long in the morning when they start up the RIP. Well, that is one of the reasons, because it's rebuilding that whole thing to actually show files, previews, everything like that. So it is important that at a certain point, a customer would remove those files, either delete or save them. Yeah. Unfortunately, there is not a backup, an auto backup function in Onyx. Yeah, so you would manually have to remove this. Now, the minute that I get more printers, my work directory will have, multiple printers in here. Right now, I have only the show color, but if I add more printers to it, there will be more printers with more files and folders in there. Yeah, so in this case, I can go in here, but I can manually do a backup of this one. Yeah, so I can basically say on my desktop here, I would be able to say, let's create a new folder. I will call this backup. And now when I move these files, for example, I want to make sure the wine and cheese I'm not printing anymore. I want to back up this one. I'm actually moving that, and you see it immediately disappears out of my RIP queue also. I've taken it out of the work directory. I don't want to have it there. Now, months later, I'm saying, oh, I need to reprint this one. Now I can take these files and say, okay, these I want to move back into my RIP queue, and there they are again. Now I can just drag the file up and say, do you want to reprocess? No, because I've printed the last time and it was fine. Click no. It appears here and I'm ready to print. I have not touched the file. The file is completely in an original status.
Co chcesz?
No settings are changed. No re-ripping has done. So I did not apply a new profile or a different profile. I'm taking the file as is. So you can see in that case, it's very convenient. Now this work folder also helps me in troubleshooting when I have a problem of my RIP starting. Because in here, the console, you might see when you're starting up, opening file, blah, 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 blah. And then nothing happens. So it hangs on that file. Maybe it's a corrupted file. Well, if you see that file here, opening file, on examples, wine and cheese, you can close the RIP, remove that file out of the work folder, restart the RIP, and see if you're still facing the same problems. It could be that you, at a certain point, you would actually have to, maybe take the whole all data from the printer out and move it into the desktop and see if it works. One corrupted file can prevent the RIP from starting. Yeah, so be aware, in the work folder, there's where everything is. One last thing about the work folder, it sometimes happens that you have done something in the job editor or whatever, and this file stays here on busy. So it has a yellow button, and says busy. I close my RIP, open my RIP, it's still on busy. I restart my PC, still on busy. It has a status that is preventing from changing. Yeah. So this is what I mentioned to you before. This is the status, the wait print here. So if I would see a problem here, it would say wine and cheese dot busy, and it will just stay there. Well, basically, that if nothing else happens, I can basically remove the status here, and I can actually say whatever it needs to be buffered. It says, are you sure? Yes. But it also knows, the RIP knows that buffered or archive is down here. Yeah. Same thing here. If I want to move it up, I can also.
Jakbyś był taki, w sensie, ten, to byś mnie mógł oskarżyć, nie? Ojej.
Wait. Yeah, so then again, if I take this tulips and I change this archive again. Wait. Print. And it goes up there. So extremely, when you ever see something where with the the hanging of the RIP with the file on .busy, you can change that. So a work folder with input and work. Input is where the actual hot folder resides. Work is actually the area where my files are coming. Now, this input folder here, where it is, if I go to configure printer here, I can actually go in here and look at my properties, and I can actually change my location. You see here, it is the C input and my work. So I can change this, and maybe I have for multiple printer drivers that I want to put on different SSDs.
No
You know,
zamawiasz?
maybe I have 4 printers connected and I have
Czy nie?
enough free space that I don't want to have it on my C drive. If I change it here, I can pick my disk. I only have a C drive, but I could basically say I want to have a D drive and save this for the Epson Circle on the D drive. This property is per printer. Yeah, so I can
Tylko
change
żeby
this
nam
property
to musimy
for
co
the Epson
najmniej,
to
chyba
be
że
the
ja
D
pojadę.
drive, the HP drive to be the E
Ale to
drive,
nie jest.
or 2 printers on a disk. Yeah, that is also possible. But you can choose that.
Tak to musimy
I
we
would
trzy
not
być.
advise to do this on a network,
Musimy we dwóch,
you know,
musimy
because
20.
there's a lot of, as you've seen, copying going from input to the work folder when you're opening a lot of files. That is also one of the reasons why that antivirus exceptions is so important. You can imagine if your antivirus does not have an exception on Onyx, what happens? You open files in the input through a quick set. The files are coming into the input, and then as soon as they're ripped, they go to the work folder.
No,
So it could be
mam
that
tylko
an
to.
antivirus program is saying, "Hey, that is an attempt. You know, we need to close this. You know, so make sure that you, whenever you have an antivirus installed, that you make the exception of the fact that the Onyx folder is not looked at, or at least this input folders and work folders are not looked at. Otherwise, you get into a problem with the antivirus. Yeah, so that's basically, you know, the start where you do your quick sets and manipulate quick sets. Once you have created a quick set, I can go to edit and I can go in here. I can do many more things. I can, for example, say, well, all of these files, I need to add a cutter to it. Yeah, so for example, I have the new Summa S1 series connected to it. Yeah, so I click OK. I cannot change the name here. You see, I cannot do anything on the name. I would actually have to go back to configure printer if I want to change the name of the quick set. So now I can say Magic 90 Summa, wrong keyboard, Summa S1, for example. Yeah. Click on OK. Click on OK. Now here it's always the case that if I want to apply a certain quick set, I can also go to the file and say here, apply quick set. Click on this Magic 1 Summa, apply, and then it will be applied. And you see that now I also have a cutter towards it. I can do the same thing with this one. Apply quick set and do the quick set and apply the quick set there. Or go back again. If I made a mistake and say, oh, you know, I made a mistake. It should not be a magic, but it should be the normal one, the normal quick set. And it applies the normal quick set to the file. All right. Well, I think that was the first part of the whole training. Do we have any questions? Here, let me see. Does it always come as a hardware dongle? Yes. So, like I was explaining, at this moment, the Onyx is a hardware dongle. We are in the process of going to software licenses. So that, of course, does not require any dongle, but we still be able to hold a hardware license if the customer wants it. And Andreas is asking for which version of Drive is the license manager replacing the What's on My Key. It's basically version 21. 21.0 is now has now replaced the What's on My Key. Yeah, so in that case, you can still use that one. So from 21 and up, it's there. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll come back to you can use the same link again and then we'll come back. I'll meet you all at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Talk to you later.